Mayor Easton, at times like these, although Prime Minister Trudeau gets a lot of attention with his daily press conferences, we really need the municipalities here in Niagara to respond to this crisis because they're closer to the people who are dealing with it. What are some of the things that the town of Lincoln has implemented during this time?
Well, first let me say that the whole response is really based on the kind of planning that we've been doing for a long time. Not in terms of this specific situation, but how you deal with your day-to-day work. And so when something like this comes along, you're going to rely on that plan tremendously to help you come up with the way you're going to go forward. So let me start with communication. We have a very strong communication plan, very transparent attitude about the way we do business at the town. And so we just start communicating with people, calling people, emailing people. I'm doing it, the councillors are doing it, our senior staff, our CAO are doing it. How are you doing? Do you need anything? And we're doing it on every bit of social media that we possibly can. And so that's the first thing. Secondly, economic development wise, we're not leaving that to figure it out when this is all over. We're building a ramp between what is now and what needs to be. And our economic development officer is very much part of the mayor's initiative around economic development that I believe other people have been talking about on your program. And it is important that we help businesses out now. We actually...
Yeah, go on.
We actually have several businesses in Lincoln that are working to assist with the recovery. We have one business that's retooled equipment to do sanitization of PPE equipment. We have Dillon's Distillery, which everybody knows has gone international on their sanitizing material. We have Bench Brewery, who have contributed 13,000 gallons of beer to that cause, giving them more product to work with. And I think that it's just that jumping in and people wanting to do something using the tools that they have, that is part of the resilience that really, really makes up this community. And I think just generally, in terms of the way the town is run, the way we deal with people, the services we provide, it's really the same. The topic is different, the attitudes are the same, the energy is the same that we're using to go forward.
Mayor Easton, the agricultural sector is a huge factor in your municipality. Are you happy with some of the supports that have been, I guess, put into place by the federal government? Are you concerned with the future of that sector? It's very important in a time like this that the agricultural sector continues to grow the food that we will need moving forward.
It is. And let me say that the initiative around the migrant workers, our foreign workers, was extremely well received by the industry. It's not just even this year. If you can't get crops in the ground, then there isn't going to be any harvest. And so having those workers come, some came very early in January, about 8,000 into this area. And now, we will have a transition of many more, 2,000, 4,000, another 7,000 when it comes to the harvest. This is extremely important. But it's also important to understand that if you don't have the right people doing your pruning, you're not going to have much of a tree crop. If you don't look after the root stock, if you don't look after what's going on the ground, then you're not going to have the crops that you need, not just this year, but next year and the next year. So that was an excellent, excellent initiative.
The mayors have been working together, meeting together. How do you feel about the regional response to the crisis?
I think the region have been very right on the mark. They provided us excellent, excellent leadership in public health. I can't emphasize that enough. I think that at times like this, part of the value of our community is really around how you value public health. And I think that probably we're going to see changes in that area in the future as well. But Dr. Hergy has been very clear, and I think that is so important. He's been very clear, very consistent in his messaging. The regional staff then have picked that up so that we can take that forward into our communities using every possible media that's available to us.
With your background in nursing administration, also being a professor in School of Health Sciences at Mohawk College in the past, how do you feel about the way this situation is, I guess, being policed by public health in general?
Well, I think that, it's very much a learned behavior when it comes to the grassroots, how people deal with this every day. We're not accustomed to really having much limitation placed on us. And so this whole business of physical distancing, it's important. You have to get it yourself in order to realize how important it is. It's not something you can turn on and turn off like a tap. We have to stay home, and that's why the region's message, Stay Home Niagara, is so important. But I also want to say that the first responders, police, fire, paramedics, it's just so important that they have been doing the work they're doing. They're there for us, not just in their very specific roles, but they are so resilient themselves in terms of helping where that help is needed. Nurses, physicians, I have to tell you, I can fall back, I guess, on what I know about dealing with one or two patients that are in isolation. Imagine all that gear that they're putting on. That has to be changed between every patient, and every patient they're caring for is in isolation. It is exhausting work. So we can't, overlook the absolute risk that they're taking and the care that they're providing, the work that they're doing on our behalf, but also just the sheer grit that it takes to get through every day.
One of the realities of the COVID-19 situation is how quickly the information changes. We can start at the beginning of a day knowing one thing, and 3 hours later, by the time lunchtime rolls around, something is different. How has the municipality of Lincoln, how have you responded? How have you been able to, I guess, change on the fly during this crisis?
I think people would be surprised at how much change there is in a day in any municipality. Every day is so different, and you're just hour by hour dealing with so many different facets of your community that it's really a matter of just applying the information. You get the information and you apply it where you need to. I think that's just part of what we do, and it truly is not all that difficult. You just need to bear down and do what you need to do. And right now, it's getting that information then out to people and interpreting it for them and their own personal circumstances.
Some numbers over the weekend, I believe it was announced that there was as many as 7 new cases of COVID-19 in the Niagara region. In your opinion, are we doing enough to limit the spread at this point in time?
I think as long as people stay home, absolutely stay home as much as they possibly can, then we will be doing enough. Because that is what we need. We need less exposure. And there's only one way you're going to get that, and that's by staying at home. And if you need help, if you need help at all, then call the municipal offices. Tell them what your issue is. There are lines, of course, into public health. Call the public health lines. But I'm just talking about day-to-day needs, groceries, maybe a trip to the drugstore, whatever it is. There are people in every community that are willing and able to be out there helping in that regard. And so stay home, particularly if you're within those vulnerable populations.
Thank you very much for your time today, Mayor Sandra Easton. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
It's Mayor Sandra Easton from the town of Lincoln. Back with more in a moment.